Madam President, it is an incredible honor for all of us to get the chance to sit side by side from you and learn from your wisdom and your life experience. As many of us are in the beginnings, in the midst of our journeys to social change, we wonder what first sparked your commitment to world change.
I happen to have had two grandmothers that were illiterate. Their whole lives, they didn't like to read and write, lived in villages. And I think that was the initial motivation, to want to make sure there was change whereby that would not happen to others. And of course, as I grew up and things evolve in life, seeing in all of our communities so many young people not having the opportunity, just strengthened that resolve and made me more committed to be able to work for change. Hello, we day.
Your journey and your life commitments has not come without some struggles, just as the journey for all of us here in our desire to create change in the world will see difficulties. How have you, when you face these difficulties, maintained your resolve for your ambition?
You know, first, I grew up in a family that has great faith in God. And then and most of all, I believed in myself. And so the more committed you become, the more dedicated you are to what you're working for, it just strengthens you. And difficulties build character. And so all the difficulties I faced, whether I was going to prison or going to exile or going to other things, just strengthened me and made me a stronger person, made me more determined to be what I wanted to be.
Has been something that all of us have looked to, as you are one of my personal role models and a role model of many of us here. And in 2011, when you won the Nobel Peace Prize, you, in your acceptance, quoted one of my personal heroes as well, Professor Wangari Maathai, when she said, "Those of us who have been privileged to receive education, skills, and experience, and even power, must be the role models for the next generation." And in front of you here at We Day, you have the next generation of role models. What advice can you give to us today?
I can see that in all the faces I'm looking at. No, I think those of us who have the opportunity to succeed, and I quoted Wangari Maathai, great lady, peace to her bones, and say that we must be the ones that inspire others. We must walk the path that others see and want to follow. What we are, what we do, what we say, makes a big difference in whether someone out there, someone you in the room, would be able to follow and say, I want to be like that. How do we inspire them? And so I think those of us, those of you here who've had this great opportunity, just think, when I go back home, I'm going to go back to communities where there are young girls who will never go to school because the schools are not available, or they have to walk long distances to get to the schools, or they don't have breakfast in the morning and too hungry to go to school. When I go back, you're their inspiration, because we can say to them that if we continue to work for them, they can be like you. You can, they can be.
those are incredible words, which all of us will hold in our hearts, knowing that we can be an inspiration for others and are responsible for that. And the big question that I've been excited to ask you, that I think all of us here really want to hear your thoughts on before we go, is in 50 years, what do you hope this generation will be able to bring to the world?
You will have changed the world. Let me be very clear about that. When I go back, and I hope I'm going to get a clip of this event, I'm going to go back. And let me tell you a story. Traditionally in our villages, young people like yourself are very subdued because they're subject to authority. And so whether it's the chief in the village, or whether it's the teacher, or whether it's the parliamentarian or the president, they're not supposed to speak unless asked to speak. And I'm told this story by the head of the UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund, who support our schools in rural areas, that she went into one of the villages, and as she got into the schoolyard, there were these kids fighting, a little girl and a little boy, exchanging blows. And so she went there. Then as she stood there, the principal came out to the little girl and said to the little girl, "Stop, little girls don't fight. Little girls are supposed to be quiet and supposed to be respectful." And so they stopped them. The little girl stood for a little while, and then she strolled to the principal and said, "Principal, please be careful what you say to me. Don't forget, a woman is president." That's a role model. That's a role model.
So that little girl is a role model, I think, for all of us, as you have been for her and for all of us as well, and as a small token for the love that you have shared with the world through your leadership, and as an appreciation for what you have come and shared with all of us on the We Day stage today. We are excited to welcome our next guest, who has also come from all the way across from Africa to share their traditional songs and music. They will be joined by a very special guest on the We Day stage this year, Midewi's newest speaker and an award-winning poet. Please join me in welcoming Chris C. and the Kenya